Turns out I've written a bunch of books, but this is one of them, and this is one of them. I grew up in the 70s, and I came of age in the 80s as a member of that subculture of Generation X that I imagine many of you share with me. That nerdy, geeky, D&D, science fiction, awkward, please don't bring a dodgeball anywhere near me. This book, The Happiest Days of Our Lives, is filled with stories about those times in my life, as well as a few stories that took place recently that I sort of use as I simultaneously use them as a backdrops and a lens to examine kind of those times. And I'm very proud of it. And this particular edition that I have is a special limited edition that Subterranean Press released like last year. So, because this is a book filled with stories, kind of about being a nerd, I chose a story to perform for you tonight that is about part of the nerd subculture that tends to sort of be kind of ostracized by the greater nerd subculture. And I am talking, of course, about those of us who love the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's something very special, and I say that in that title of the movie way, about those of us who will go to something that starts at midnight and yell at it the entire time. The story that I'm going to tell you tonight is about the very first time I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It is indeed about the losing of Wil Wheaton's Rocky virginity. Now, this story is entirely on its own quite lovely. I'm very proud of it. I enjoy telling it. But as this is Wootstock, it demands something more. It demands to be elevated from storytelling to storytelling experience. And in order for that to happen, I request the presence now on stage of Paul and Storm. As the Rocky Horror Picture Show is, of course, a musical, it is appropriate and just and right and lovely that the telling of the story involve musical accompaniment. This story is called When You Dressed Up Sharp and You Felt All Right. It began as a little introduction to a ranty rant. I'm sure you've seen those on the internet. About how much I really didn't want MTV to do what they would do in the remake of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. As my rage face faded, however, it became more fun just to tell this story that begins now. A few days after my 16th birthday, I lost my Rocky Horror virginity in a shitty little duplex theater in Van Nuys, California. I had wanted to see Rocky since I was 10 or 11, and my mom drove the two of us past a marquee advertising a midnight showing every Saturday. My parents couldn't or wouldn't tell me what the movie was about. My memory on that specific point was a little hazy. But anything that happened at midnight on a Saturday sounded awesome to me. The creepy lettering on the poster and the word horror in the title served only to increase my anticipation. We're gonna have so much fun. A week or so after my birthday, my best friend Darren and I were at a place on Van Nuys Boulevard called Cafe 50s. These 1950s themed cafes were everywhere in the 80s. Some blame Stand By Me and Back to the Future for their popularity, but this particular one was my favorite. Though I had never actually been to a diner in the 50s, this one felt the most authentic, which means that it copied what I'd seen in movies better than anywhere else. And it had Del Shannon's Runaway on the jukebox. Now wonder why shakes and vanilla cokes and extra fries with ranch dressing, while we talked about all of those things that seemed important after you discovered girls, like, you know, how to talk to one. A skill which would instantly convince her to take an unforgettable trip with you to second base for 16 seconds of commitment-free passion. We argued about the time travel paradoxes in Back to the Future. Like you do. We conferred that quoting Monty Python to the 24-year-old waitress was not the best way to get a stand-up double when you're 16. Or ever. Feel free to take notes, guys. This is useful information. I went into that wilderness, so you don't have to. And we admitted that Michael Keaton was a far better Batman than we've been prepared to give him credit for. Oh, hindsight, how you make things so crystal clear. In other words, it was a Saturday night like any other. And as midnight and the restaurant's closing drew near, our attention turned toward the most important of teenage activities, doing anything but going home. Have you ever seen Rocky? Darren said. Oh, God, I hate that stupid movie, I said. And the sequels are even worse. I mean, it's like, okay, we know that he's gonna win, so why do we even waste our time with the stupid no? I mean Rocky Horror, he said. Oh, I said, no, but I've always wanted to. It's playing across the street at midnight. We should go. Well, as quickly as I'd gotten excited to see it, I lost my nerve. Through that pre-Snopes.com grapevine that gave teens of my generation the truth about Mikey from Life cereal. Oh my God, he totally died after drinking Coke and eating a lot of Pop Rocks. I had heard about Rocky virgins being deflowered in horrifying ways. Oh my God, this guy that I know totally went to see it in Santa Monica, and they made him take off all of his clothes and they wrote virgin on his chest in lipstick. Hey, Darren, don't they do horrible things to people who haven't seen it? I asked in my totally cool, nonchalant voice. Not really, he said. If you're worried about it, we won't say anything.